I'm Corbett Wall with DB Auction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, May the 6th. Happy birthday to my oldest daughter, Savannah Wall, turns 20 today. Where's the beef? It's in the feedlots, guys. We got plenty of cattle. I mean, there's no problem there. We've been warned of protein shortages, and the first of those is starting to show up in our Wendy's restaurants. Wendy's has long time been an esteemed fast food place with quality burgers there, and most notable, they've always been recognized for having fresh, never frozen hamburgers. And with the logistics today and kind of short supplies of ground beef, they are starting to see places around the country that they don't have enough ground beef to make hamburgers, and they've put signs up saying that they're short on hamburger meat and they don't have any. So that's a shame. As much beef as we have on the hoof, backing up all over the country, we can't seem to get it put through these packing plants because of the coronavirus and the workers not being able to show up to work, and they've had to back off. Schuyler, Nebraska, cargo plant there down, they say as long as maybe 2 weeks. We sure hope it's not that long. Talked to some guys that had some cattle supposed to go into that plant this week, said that they're going to be transferred to the Fort Morgan, Colorado plant, but they don't know when they can take them. And it's just a shame that people have to experience shortages of beef protein when we've got so much of it out there as it is right now. But we've seen ground beef. I've seen messages sent to me with ground beef as high as $8 a pound, and that is absolutely ridiculous when we're a lot more used to paying about $2 a pound for it. But it's really a bad deal, and I don't know how long it's going to be before we can get these packing plants consistently running at full pace. I was talking to some people on Tuesday there, and they say it may be more than just the sickness or the scare of sickness, but it seems as though some of these smaller, still major, but smaller regional packing plants that are not unionized, somehow those workers in those non-union plants seem to have some kind of a resistance to the coronavirus, because they're not being affected nearly as bad as your larger packing plants that are union. And it goes to show you how these unions can get in there and kind of manipulate things, trying to negotiate for higher prices for their workers in there. But some of these smaller regional plants have not had near the trouble as your larger plants, and I think the unions stand to blame for a lot of that. Talked a little bit on our last visit about the letter from Dr. Stephen Kuntz, the well-renowned ag economist from Colorado State University. He sent a letter into NCBA, and it was published in a press release there, saying, and we were all big fans of his research there, saying that we definitely need more negotiated cash trade to find price discovery. And we're all about that, with the 3014 letter. And as I talk about the 3014 letter, I've talked about it on almost all my visits the last several weeks here. If you guys have not signed on to the 3014 sign-on letter there in support of that, you can find it right here. If you're watching this through social media, likely you're watching it through a link that goes to nationalbeefwire.com. If you do, as soon as you get done watching this video, if you'll drop right below it, there's a big banner there that says 3014. If you'll click on that 3014 banner, it will take you right to that sign-on letter. If you can't find it there, go to National Beef Wire, go to Feeder Flash and drop down and find it there. If you're still having trouble, go on to uscattlemans.org, go into the news feed, and just drop down until you find minimum negotiated cash, and then you'll find it right there. But we'd like to have more of you sign on. We've got about 5,000 signatures on, not just from individuals, but from operations, ranches, farms, auction markets, feedlots, associations, all different variables of life that are going to be affected by this, and we want more of them to sign on, and we'd like to see it. But the Dr. Kuntz letter, he made it clear that even though his research said that if we want price discovery, we're going to have more negotiated cash trade, it was not an argument for the 3014 or any mandation of any minimum requirement of negotiated cash trade. But if you look further on in his letter, he did talk about something that he did support, which was loosening this confidentiality rules, and the 30-70-20 rule that gives confidentiality to the packers has been a mainstay in the mandatory price reporting legislation since the very beginning. I was there when it started. I was there in 1999, 2000 when we had to prove those reports by hand without the help of the computers, and I've sorted through that data. I know a lot about it. But he was saying that we should loosen the confidentiality there, which to me, that's a lot bigger ask than saying that we want a minimum negotiated cash trade. But perhaps if we saw more information coming out that's filtered out from the confidentiality rules, perhaps even maybe seeing more of the formula trade information. And I know that is a big no-no as far as your packers go and your corporate feeders. They're not wanting to give up their formula information on there. They all, we say there's no negotiation in those formulas. Yeah, they negotiate them maybe once a year or whatever, but they are getting kickers for all kinds of things, whether it be quality grade, yield grade, dressing percentage, the day that they deliver those cattle or make them available to the packers, the day of the week that they come. They can even get a kicker for that. They can get a kicker for the amount of volume that they promise to the packers. But right now, your packers are not even honoring the full bore of your formula trades. As much as 25% or more of those, they're not even picking those cattle up, even though they were contractually obligated to pick those cattle up. So you just wonder where those deals lay. But let's talk about your futures market for Tuesday. June live cattle futures down $1.60 at 86.47. We saw a negotiated cash trade $10 to $20 higher than that, but we're talking about the June contract there. August live cattle contracts down 60 cents at 92.45. You go on out from there, and your out fronts on your live cattle contracts from down 65 to up a half a dollar. But it just makes you feel good when you don't see them going limit one way or limit the other, and we're kind of holding things together here, albeit at much lower price levels. Your feeder cattle contract for May up 52 cents at 119.60, which is a couple dollars behind your index levels, especially your real-time index, which is trading a dollar or two higher than your CME cash feeder cattle index, which has been sucked down from last Friday's cheap direct feeder cattle reports that come in. But you go on out from May, you go to August, feeder cattle contracts down 72 cents at 128.25. Your out fronts from there down 35 cents to up 30 cents, so just a little bit unevenly steady there, but not much going on your out front feeder cattle contracts. Your fat cattle trade, we did have more trade, and through this pandemic, through the crisis, we've been seeing trade every day of the week. And I always tell you guys, why do packers come out with bids early in the week? Because they need cattle. Why do people take them? Because they have no choice. Because without a mandated minimum requirement of negotiated cash trade, if a packer comes by and bids you on your cattle, you either take it or just assume that you're going to carry those cattle over. They're not going to come back later in the week and try to negotiate again for those cattle. In fact, they may not bid on those cattle next week or ever in retaliation, and that's what the packers do. But you look at some of your confirmed sales on Tuesday. In Iowa, 1,300 head confirmed with live sales and a big spread from 95 to 107. Dress trade, a huge spread from 145 all the way up to 170. And you think, my gosh, why is there such a big spread in there? There are some packers out there that kind of want to keep their reputation. They want to save face. They want to offer something that seems legitimate compared to the board and what the other cash trades are, but it's still so far behind what they're making on these box beef cutout values. It's really just pennies on the dollar compared to what they're making. Nebraska, 3,800 head confirmed on Tuesday, with live sales all at 95 and the dress sales from 145 all the way up to 170. And I will note that that 170 was not widely available. It was from your Iowa premium plant there in Tama, Iowa, and they're trying to give an honest bid for those cattle there. And even though it's $10 higher than the biggest trade we saw last week, when the rest of your trades are mostly lower. But Kansas had a couple loads there at $95 and nothing in Texas. And of course, Colorado doesn't print anything because of those confidentiality rules I was talking about earlier. Box beef cutout values continue to soar. They jumped again. I don't know where it's going to stop. It seems that we're going to go past $5 a pound. Who knows? Maybe $10 a pound. How much money do these packers have the gall to make? And I remind you once again, these are not negotiated prices. These are not bid on prices to raise them at that level. These are the prices that are set for all your different cuts on the carcass by your packers. Your retailers have no choice if they want to fill some empty spaces in their shelves but to pay it, and then they have to pass the gouging on to your consumers. But choice cuts Tuesday afternoon, $428.99, up almost $19 again. It's almost laughable. We have no more superlatives available to describe the box beef cutout values in relation to what your cattle are bringing. But up $18.94 on your choice cuts Tuesday afternoon. That's just over Monday afternoon's trade. Select cuts, and I told you likely they would regain, and they were falling way behind. Select cuts up $34.05 at $410.71. That's about where your choice cuts were on Monday afternoon. But your select has rebounded, and there's really no more select product than there is out there. Now that we have grading done by instruments, and we're keeping those cattle longer, and we're feeding them heavier, they've been on feed longer, about 80% of your cattle are grading choice or better, so there's not a whole lot of select out there. And there's a lot of supermarkets that feature select meat, and so they're going to buy that product. And when you see a disparage in your choice select spread, it's likely just to who came in to purchase that day. But your choice select spread on Tuesday afternoon, $18.25, with another good movement of 129 loads of cuts, trimmings, and grinds. And I've had some people give me notice. They're saying, hey, your load count on your box beef cutouts seems to be about normal or better than normal. Yes, because they're not forcing those trades out front for future delivery, and that's the way they hide a lot of demand or increase in prices there, because they're almost embarrassed of how much money they're making. But all your retailers are hand to mouth because of the price gouging and the sticker shock. So they're buying everything current delivery. So we're seeing a lot of those trades coming, right quick, and 129 loads for one day's movement. That's pretty impressive, albeit at astronomical price levels. Your slaughter, it was higher than the same period in the week last week, so that's encouraging, even though we're still having so much trouble keeping these plants open. But slaughter through Tuesday, 155,000 head. That's 6,000 more than the same time a week ago, but down 85,000 from the same time a year ago. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DB auction laid on Tuesday at 121.70, down just 6 cents. It's amazing how much support we've seen, albeit at much lower levels, on these feeder cattle, because we have a competitive market, which we don't have in your fed cattle arena. But we've got a competitive market. They're called livestock auctions, and I'm a big proponent of livestock auctions. Competitive price discovery with the cattle right in front of you, auctioneer on one side, and bidders bidding until they don't desire the cattle anymore. And that is so important in your livestock business, and we just wish that we had it at the fed cattle level. We've got it minimally, but just not enough. But if we would mandate a minimum negotiated cash trade, these fat cattle auctions that they still have in the Midwest would swell up with packer bids trying to fulfill that minimum negotiated cash trade level, but we just don't see it right now. Let's talk about some of your auctions, your feeder cattle auctions on Tuesday. Ozarks Regional Stockyard in West Plains, Missouri. That's extreme south central Missouri there, 2,900 head. That's nothing for them. They normally sell more than that, although that's about exactly the same as they had a week ago. But your steers sold unevenly steady from $2 lower to $2 higher. Your heifers steady to $3 higher, and spots $6 higher on some of your heifers there. How about a market in St. Mary's, Kansas? Rezac Livestock Commission Company there, Denny Rezac and Company, 1,300 head there, but the strings that they get. Look at these load lots and bigger that we see out of St. Mary's, Kansas there, even though they had a lighter run. And most of your 8 weights were running $3 to $4 higher than a week ago. Your light 8s that you see here from 8 to 850 pounds were selling from 121 to 122. Now, if you got heavier than 850, you saw the price level come off pretty fast. They had a load of 795 pound heifers, bring $113, and that's very respectable there. How about we go back east? Bluegrass Stockyards, their flagship facility there in Lexington, Kentucky, 67 head, 821 pound steers, bring 123 and a quarter, and they're a long ways from a commercial feedlot there in Lexington, Kentucky. Let's go up in the northern plains extreme, up above the mountains there. Montana Livestock Auction in Ramsey, Montana, 110 head of 558 pound steer calves, bring $173. Very, very respectable for a market that's that far outside of the mainstream. How about some replacement heifers in a small market near where I used to live, just north of the little town of Maysville, Missouri, where I used to live, where the Gallatin Bulldogs used to beat the heck out of the Maysville Wolverines on a regular basis. But Davies County Livestock Market in Gallatin, Missouri, owned by Troy Jennings and David Cannon there. They had a couple of strings of really fancy, mostly black, few black baldy, replacement quality heifers. How about the K-Bar B cattle there out of Unionville, Missouri, came in there, and like I said, 90% black, few black baldies off of them, 59 head, a full load of them, weighed 834 pounds, bring $139, bound for Iowa. And our top quote to come on Tuesday, not unlikely, it's out of Kimball Livestock Exchange in Kimball, South Dakota there. Look at this big long string. 316 head, 853 pound steers, bring $125.50. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.